Hello, I'm Dr. Bernard Starr, your host for another edition of Active Aging Stories, programs that introduce you to fascinating people who illustrate that age is no barrier to productive and passionate living. In fact, many of the older adults that we have profiled show even greater involvement and joy in pursuit of their creative activities than when they were younger. To prove our point, we'll introduce you to the legendary Stephen Bruce, co-founder of the iconic New York City restaurant Serendipity. Now, you know that New York City has some of the greatest restaurants in the world, yet this extraordinary spot on East 60th Street has been an attraction for New Yorkers and tourists for over 50 years.
Almost 57 years ago, my two associates, Pat Carradine and Calvin Holt, were roommates. We came to New York to seek fame and fortune. My two partners were from Little Rock, Arkansas, and they brought back a suitcase of recipes and wonderful things that their aunts made for them and their mothers made for them at home. So we started entertaining people, and our parties became notorious for the decor, because everyone wanted to know where we found all that stuff. And truthfully, it was found on the streets of New York. People after the party kept saying, everything's so good, why don't you go into business and open up a shop that sells everything off the wall, as wonderful, and besides the wonderful cooking that you guys do. So 6 months later, who knew, we were in business. My partner Calvin found a space, and we were open just like that. We first opened, we had casual dining. We banished all of the checked tablecloths that you saw in restaurants with brick walls. We painted everything white. We resurrected Tiffany lamps. We bought them for $10 and $15 and $25. We created what is called the serendipitous look. And we were really the first people on a food revolution that created, impromptu merchandising, eating, having a great deal of fun. Serendipity gave me the wonderful opportunity of designing clothes. That added to the cachet, because I was dressing Mrs. Kennedy Onassis, and then of course I did some clothes for Cher and a lot of celebrities all the way. Vogue magazine gave me 3 or 4 covers in the 60s and 70s when I first started out. So that launched, Serendipity as being sophisticated and chic. Right where we're sitting now, I had a denim workroom where I bought secondhand denim and just piled it high, and people came in and tried everything on, like pants or jeans or jackets, shirts. If a customer said, I want a pair of jeans, and I said, well, tell me about your life. She said, well, I just got divorced. I'm getting a new house. I have 3 children. I'm a Scorpio. So I put that all embroidered on her jeans, all those symbols. And so she wore them out. It was very chic and very trendy. And of course, we did blue denim caftans. We did blue denim, everything. It's always fun at the door because you never know who's going to come in. As one Vogue editor said to me one day, Stephen, you don't know who's here, do you? And I said, no, tell me. She said, so-and-so was here and so-and-so was here. I said, I didn't know it, I'm just greeting them. But I got to know them later, and so I grew up on a crop of celebrities, UN dignitaries, and it just became fun and my way of greeting people. Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, she first came to us when she was a senator's wife. She kept commuting back from Washington to New York, and then she continued during her White House days, and even when she lived in New York, she brought all of her children. And her favorite drink, of course, was the frozen hot chocolate. The children were introduced to the frozen hot chocolate, but they still come back to this day. We sell just as many frozen hot chocolates in the winter as we do in the summer. It's one of those things, there are chocoholics everywhere in the world, and I'm one of them. And Invention is the necessity of life, so we wanted to have a drink with chocolate because it was so popular, so we put our heads together. And one of my partners loved, you know, making cocktails and so forth, and he decided to put some chocolate in a blender, 15 different chocolates, and we shook it up and put some whipped cream and milk in it, and voila, we had the frozen hot chocolate. But it took a lot of acceptance because it was a very unusual drink in its day. Of course, now we've been copied worldwide by all of the coffee companies. The food that we were serving all along, was country and hearty food. So people want that kind of thing. They want something easy. They want salads. They want things almost on the go now. It's a very quick society. I like to revitalize myself, quite frankly, and I like it with a lot of new ideas. For our 50th anniversary, we did a golden opulent sundae, which was $1,000 in the baccarat crystal glass, and then we rolled the vanilla ice cream in a gold leaf, topped it with caviar, candies from Fauchon. That was fun. Since then, we've done a $25,000 sundae, and when we get someone to buy that, I donate everything to charity. Just recently, we did a $69 foot-long hot dog. So that was a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, and of course, I surround myself with wonderful people, and that's half of the fun. People that are stimulating to me, that react to what I'm doing, and it's wonderful, as I said, having an audience. They come in the door every day and they say, "What have you got to offer? What's new?" And they tell you whether they like it or not.
That's terrific.
Thank goodness we still have lines at the door.
Well, isn't it good to see that Stephen Bruce, now in his late 70s, shows no signs of letting up, meeting and greeting and running one of the hottest restaurants in town, and continuing to enrich the New York scene with his amazing frozen hot chocolate and other creative delicacies. Okay, now another case in point that age is just a number and is no deterrent to active living. Andrea Litke demonstrates the extraordinary life of a vibrant 87-year-old woman whose current passion may surprise you.
Just how did this former ballet dancer, poet, artist, collector come to play ping pong in her 80s?
Well, as a child in England, and everybody plays table tennis in England, and my mother played with the Hungarian champion Varna, and actually won one game. I'm sure it was quite accidental. And I always loved it. And then we moved here when I was 16, and we had a house in Butt Lake, and we had a table there. Somebody told me about this health club. It was called the Excelsior at the time. And I went up and I took one look and I saw the ping pong table. I said, I'm joining. As I say, it's as an exercise, it's one of the best. Not only are you moving backwards and forwards, picking up balls, but to really hit that ball and get out all your frustrations in a smash, it's fantastic. Once you start playing and people see you, they want to play with you if you play fairly well.
Well, I played ping pong as a child and hadn't played it for many, many years. And one day I was sitting outside in the gym waiting for my exercise class to start. And this lady came along with her ping pong bat and said, "Does anybody play ping pong?" I haven't found anyone else that I enjoy playing with. I enjoy playing with Andrea because she's so good.
Thank you.
And I like hitting back her smashes when I can.
Andrea says her early years as a ballet dancer serve her well in her ping pong game.
In fact, what ballet has done since I was 5 years old, I can do almost any sport. From swimming, swan diving, bicycling, any sport after ballet is easy. And when I was in London, I can go on forever. I mean, I was in Sadler's Wells, the ballet in London, before we came back to America, and Margot Fontaine was in my class. This psychoanalyst that I went to said, you should actually really be in school. She said, you can go to a writing school or you can go to Fordham. If you go to Fordham, you'll be a little fish in a big pond. I went to Fordham and became a big fish in a big pond because I not only was on the board, the psychology board, but I was the editor-in-chief of the magazine, the literary magazine, and editor-in-chief of the newspaper. After I stopped ballet, I took up sculpting. And I did quite a bit of sculpting, and in fact, I did a series of ballerinas which they sold to Macy's. And also I have pictures of me in Macy's talking to children and people who wanted to sculpt. And then I decided that I loved sculpting because it was three-dimensional but no color. And when my father died, and he loved color, I decided that no, I want to paint. Speak to me of God, and the almond tree blossomed. So I, like an idiot, decided I'm going to paint this, and of course, only a quarter comes through. But this is how I visualized the almond tree, and that's how the painting, this particular one, came to be. Well, of course, I collect. I collect Royal Copenhagen dogs, and Majolica, and jade. When I had the painting, I had 3 painting exhibitions, and the woman who did my framing introduced me to jade and gave me a big book for my birthday on jade. And I bought little bits of jewelry, and then I began collecting in earnest. And I have a rather big collection of jade. Royal Copenhagen dogs, head-end porcelain, Majolica. Scholar's rocks were my latest. I don't know whether you know what a scholar's rock is. Well, many, many years ago in China, they decided instead of having to go to the mountain, they would make miniature mountains, and they could put them on their desk, and they could look at the mountain and contemplate, and almost like being there. It actually started with even bigger ones in the garden, and then they reduced everything. And since I was in a restaurant at Asia House and I saw these, I thought, it looks interesting. I had stopped collecting the Majolica, the head end, and the other porcelain. Let me get started on Scholar's Rocks. I now have 18 of them in my apartment. When I saw it, I loved it, and they told me it's from the Gobi Desert. I went to see the film Mongol, and sure enough, on the screen, there's a wolf god talking, and there are 3 different mountains around him, all pleated like that, and I almost shouted, "My rock, my rock!" The woman who brings them from China called me up from Boston and said, could I write a poem on rocks? I said, I never read a poem on rocks, and I never heard of a poet writing about rocks, but I'll try. Okay. The poem is called Rocks, and to touch them is to know the bones of our bejeweled earth. Aeons of majesty, they rise, enclosing valleys, forming cliffs to hold the sea. Rocks around the clock before we knew we were, watched by rocks, held by rocks, clung to and saved by rocks. And if by chance a miniature should rest on desk or table, mountainous within its smallness, the universe is brought to size as palm encloses it, and we belong. What do I like the best of all these things? Because for me, to be creative is what is important. And it doesn't matter what I'm creating, whether it's a painting, whether I'm writing, whether I decorate the apartment. I mean, I love decorating. I love fixing up my apartment. I have a world around me. And actually, I think, though, I still, because of my father, go back to psychology all the time. It's still, I look at everything psychologically. I'm pretty good at it. I should have become a psychologist, and they said in Fordham, I said, no way, my daughter is a psychiatrist, my father was a psychoanalyst, I do not want to sit with depressed patients and go through that. So I want to have fun, and I don't care what it is. If it's fun doing needlework, which I'm doing a gorgeous tiger right now, or writing my poems. I also did a little saying age is better with wine. Instead of wine is better with age, I have it in my kitchen. And one of my girlfriends was so crazy about it, they wanted me to do it, so I did another one for her. And whatever is creative at the moment, that's what I like to do. I'm 87 and a half, and it was never really retiring. I mean, I never had a job per se, except like with the ballet or if I was teaching, but that was all up to me. So it's freelance, even the writing, everything is freelance that I ever did. I don't believe that I'm the age that I am, and I don't have problem maintaining anything actually, except my looks. I mean, I look in the mirror like, ugh, it's horrible. And when I think back the way I looked then, but that's the only thing that bothers me. Otherwise, I didn't gain weight, I walk all over, I rode a bicycle from 87 until about a year ago, and I loved it. Do everything in moderation. Eat whatever you want, but not too much, and have a passion for something. You must have a passion. I don't care what it's about, but you have to be passionate about something, and then do everything happy medium.
We hope you will seriously consider Andrea's advice. Explore passion and let it infuse your life with its energy and excitement. It's also something our next guest echoes in his own passion and continuing life's work.
Richmond Sheppard is a mime. As an actor, director, producer, teacher, he has been involved with the theater for over 50 years. Richmond has written, produced, and directed 30 short films and 2 feature films. He performed in New York and in Los Angeles. Then there was Jakarta, Indonesia, Bali, Ireland, and Berlin. He used his pantomime to communicate when in Poland. He's also an author and a painter.
We're here over here on 26th and 2nd with this new theater that we just finished building, and we're planning to do a lot of stuff in the neighborhood. See, I'm like a salmon. I got old, I returned to my spawning grounds. Here I am. But I didn't want to open a theater when I came back here in 1987. I put together an improv troupe. We worked at the Village Gate, and I was a theater and film critic on WNEW for a couple of years, and edited a theatrical paper, and did performances. I'm basically a mime. But I had to do all these other things because, you know, there's only one thing that pays less than mime, and that's poetry. So here we are. I really felt that I did not want to live bi-coastally, which was my original idea when I moved back to New York. And when this space here became available, this used to be the Vineyard Theater. The Vineyard Theater did so well here, they moved to a bigger and better place on 15th Street. And I heard that this place came on the market by, I hit on a couple of friends, somebody gave me some money, and I maxed all my credit cards. And bought lighting equipment and dimmer board and paint, and we just started doing shows here. Now the idea of this space is to do more than just shows or to do mime. People say to me, aren't you going to do a mime show? No. I want to do something that means something in the community. So we've had a very nice children's show on Saturdays at noon. This summer, and we've got one here now called Modern Medieval. It's basically a mime show, but the guy is really good. We're doing plays in the evenings, and we're going to be doing folk music, probably on Monday nights. We've got a terrific late night show on here. I'll be starting to do a mime workshop here Saturday mornings, and not that anybody wants to study mime anymore, but I want to utilize the space for it to also become kind of a cultural center in the neighborhood, as well as a place to do plays. We're renting the place out when I just did a fascinating show here. Did a play called Disappeared by Fermin Cabal, a Spanish playwright, about life under Pinochet in Chile. It was a powerful show, with 5 really terrific actresses and a flamenco guitarist. The press didn't come. That's how it is in New York, so you move on to the next. Sometimes they come, sometimes they don't come. I had thought that play would really put this theater on the map. Maybe we'll do it again. Maybe we'll do it in the winter and see if we can stir up some more action. So here I am at this advanced age, still behaving and doing the stuff that I've been doing for the last 50 years, which is all kinds of projects in theater. You remember you saw me on Kojak? Yeah, I played a transvestite kidnapper. Did a lot of mime commercials, a lot of stuff. I'll tell you something, I think that it's important to realize, I teach screenwriting at St. John's, and I was telling my students just the other day, I said, you know what geriatrics is? They said, no. I said, it's a study of aging, and it really begins in your 20s. You've got to start taking care of your body early. It'll take care of you late. I'm 306 years old, you know. You like that for a piano. Have you ever heard one more out of tune? Anyway, I thought maybe I'd show you something, a little something about mime. Yes, the owner of the theater has to move ladders sometimes. I mean, as I discussed with you, the articulation of the body that you get in the mime training is the difference between, let's say an amateur physical performer is going to pick a flower. They might do something like this. But if your body has been articulated in all directions, it might come out like this. And it's that with an impulse coming from the body. And it's that stylization that gives mime its artistry, with the body perhaps reflecting the environment around it. The idea, of course, is to tell a story using the hands and the face and the body, to create whatever you want. This is even easier than the real ladder. So, anyway, a little sample. A man in Florida was reaching his 95th birthday, and he took an ad in the newspapers and took some ads on television and said that for his 95th birthday at 10 a.m. on that day, he's going to climb up a 250-foot pole and jump head first into a pail of water. And he put up this giant pole. Well, it's only going to cost $3. He's going to do it at 10 o'clock, and by 8 o'clock, people are already starting to gather. And the parade grounds outside of Fort Lauderdale, the fairgrounds, began to fill up. By 9 o'clock, there were 500 people there. 9:30, there are 2,000 people. And there's the pole, and at the bottom of it is a big pan of water. At 9:30, the man begins his climb. It's a pole, and it's got these iron things sticking out. And he begins to climb. By the time he's halfway up, the crowds have increased. It's now 4,500 people are there. He gets right near the top, and he loses it, and they all go, "Ah!" And he hangs on, and he keeps climbing, and he gets to the top. And he's got a wireless mic there. And he looks down at this crowd, and he waves, and they all wave back at him. And he says, "Thank you for coming to the celebration of my 95th birthday." And they go, "Yay!" He said, "I'm now going to dive head first into 2 feet of water from this 250-foot pole." And they go, "Yay!" He said, "Do you really want to see a 95-year-old man dive head first into 2 feet of water?" They say, "No!" He says, "Thank you very much for coming. My next show is at 3 o'clock. All right. One more story. This scene is also in Florida, where a lot of old people seem to drift to. And the scene is in Miami Beach, and it's a nice day, and out of his hotel comes a gentleman walking. His toupee is on straight, his mustache is penciled into a thin line, he's wearing an open two-tone jacket, he's got two-tone shoes, and he starts to walk. And as he's walking, a woman comes up near him and she looks at him and she says, "Aha," and he looks back and he starts to walk faster, and she follows after him saying, "Aha, aha," and he goes faster and she comes faster saying, "Aha," and he keeps, now he's running and she's going, "Aha," and he finds himself trapped in an alleyway, and here's this woman looking at him going, "Aha." He says, "Madam, why are you following me? Why are you pointing at me and saying, aha?" She says, "You look just like my third husband." He says, "How many times have you been married?" She says, "Twice." So those are a couple little stories about aging. People say to me, "How come you're almost 77 years old? How can you do all this running and jumping and all this stuff?" Well, I've been exercising all my life. I eat what my body tells me to, not too much, no French fries. I'm spiritually centered, and the insecurity of being an artist keeps me alert.
The same zest and creativity applies to our talented corps of volunteers who bring their professional expertise to active aging stories and are even now working on new programs showing that life after 60, 70, 80, and beyond can be most fulfilling. Look for them soon. If you have any suggestions for active aging stories, contact Shirley at yoelyoel.com. And for more information, see our website, www.activeagingstories.org. Until next time, I'm Dr. Bernard Starr.